Hey everybody, Devout Nation here again. I got a video for you featuring Cliff here. They touch on a couple topics that I wanted to make a video about, so it fit perfectly. They touch about free will and love and how those things prove or are evidence for that God exists. So I'll stop the video in certain spots to give my thoughts and then do a recap at the end. So make sure you watch to the end to get my full recap. Let's begin.
Existence, objective morals are one piece of evidence that God exists.
And what would be your strongest piece, you would say?
I like the moral argument, but I also like design.
And okay, just give me a brief overview of the design real quick.
All right. In the same way that this points to a watchmaker, due to the complexity of the design, there must be a designer. Just in the same way that if you and I are traveling through the Dakotas, we come around a corner and I suddenly am confronted by Mount Rushmore, as are you, if I were to say, wow, look at the way the water dripped down over the rock face. Hey, that's old George's head up there. And that's Abe's head. And then there's Teddy Roosevelt. It's amazing the way the water just carved out the heads on Mount Rushmore. That would be ludicrous. The order and design of those heads of those presidents up on Mount Rushmore demands a sculptor. Similarly, the intricacy of the human eye, the brain, the central nervous system, the laws of nature demand some type of designer.
Okay, so God just happened one day and said, eye, hair, boom, and then we were created.
So I love the analogy that Cliff uses here as there must be a watchmaker or a sculptor for Mount Rushmore. It kind of puts things into perspective who aren't believers that something just can't come from nothing. Or as it gets further explained, chaos cannot create life or create something out of nothing. So every modern piece of art or any piece of art of all time has a painter. Every bit of invention, technological inventions have inventors. If you create a sculptor or you create a sculpture, you are a sculptor who created that sculpture. So life is so complex and so intricate in its design that the idea of chaos and nothing creating that life is just a wild concept. It takes more faith to believe in that than it does to believe in a creator, in my opinion. I love Cliff's analogy here. I just wanted to point that out.
It just happened like that.
No.
And then people would evolve, wouldn't they?
God can use evolution to create.
Okay, but then that would strike out God because evolution is scientifically proven.
No, evolution is not scientifically proven.
I had to stop it again real quick. So his claim that evolution is scientifically proven for life is such a false statement, because evolution literally means the evolution of life, and you have to have life first in order for it to evolve. Now, I believe in evolution to a certain extent. For instance, like a giraffe. Okay, let's use a giraffe. I believe that God put the life forms here on Earth, and then they evolved to their surroundings. So a giraffe, over time, trees grow. It's, the giraffes that can reach leaves higher up, live longer. I believe that kind of evolution where the taller the neck got, that's the evolution of the giraffe. The evolution that I don't believe is, first of all, life coming from evolution. And the second one being that like a whale can turn into a goat, or a goat can turn into a bird, or a fish that turned into a monkey. That's the type of evolution I don't believe. I do believe in evolution, but in its own genus and species. But let's continue.
The question is there a designer behind the process, or is there no designer behind the process?
All right, and why is it so wrong to think there is none?
Because 100 times out of 100, in my observation and experience of life, A shirt comes from a tailor. A meal comes from a cook. A book comes from an author. A building comes from an architect. Mount Rushmore comes from a sculptor. Never once do I observe order come out of chaos by chance.
Not necessarily.
Give me an example.
A meal can come out of anything. It doesn't have to
You've got
come.
to be kidding me. A meal can come out of anything?
Yeah.
Well, I ain't going to be eating dinner with you, sir. You've got to be kidding me. No, sir, a meal doesn't come out of anything.
Yes, it does.
You're going to get food poisoning real fast. You're going to eat the wrong thing real fast. You don't watch out.
Not necessarily. I mean, you can just kill an animal, and that's a meal. Yeah, you don't have to cook it. You can just eat it. You can just eat the flesh and everything, all the fur. It doesn't come from anything. It evolved. It evolved from, like, it was born from its parents, and its parents were born from its parents, and it was born. There's no necessarily a creator there, no unique blueprint. It was just repetition, 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 repetition. There doesn't have to be like a person that creates that. It just happens.
It just happens.
It just happens.
Who killed the animal?
I did.
Okay, you did.
Yeah, but you can also eat
The
it
animal
alive.
just didn't come down in front of you, say, enjoy dinner, and die.
You don't have to eat it when it's dead.
Oh, that's right. You don't have to eat it when it's dead. That's right.
Yeah.
You're going to choose whether to ingest the food or not.
Well, yeah, sometimes it's better, but that's a different story. That was my time in Brazil. That's a different thing. And one question I would like to ask you, like my main question, but why should we believe in God? What advantage do we get from believing in God than not believing in God?
Well, I'll tell you why. I got 3 sons, and I love the tar out of them, and I've given them a lot of gifts. And because they love me, they've looked me in the face and they've said, Dad, thank you. And when people give me gifts, I find it to be very wise for me to say, thank you. So you and I have been given the most incredible gift by God, the gift of life. I think it's highly reasonable and appropriate to say, thank you.
But I wasn't. I was given to me by my parents.
Ultimately, life comes from God. It doesn't come from non-life. You're right. You have a mom and a dad, and I had a mom and a dad. You're absolutely right. And they had moms and dads, and that's true. Good biology. Ultimately, though, you've got to ask yourself, where does life come from? Does it come from non-life, or does it come from life? It's far more reasonable to believe life comes from life than it is reasonable to believe that life comes from non-life.
Yeah, and God is non-life.
No, God is a living being.
No, he's not. He's an entity. Entity's just
So when you say he, you're talking about a living being.
Yeah, because I choose to personify it. People personify things. And everyone has personified it. They consider it a him.
Well, the good news of Jesus Christ is that God is not an it. God is a he, a personal being. No, he's not a male, but he's a personal being who loves you. It takes a personal being.
He does not love me.
Well, Jesus said he does, so take it up with Jesus.
Apparently he does not.
Why do you say God doesn't love you?
Because of what has happened in my life.
Okay, good. Sir, a lot of bad stuff happened to a dude named Job. But Job made a very wise decision.
Yeah, Job kept believing in God, and then God rewarded him, but Job was kind of stupid.
No, Job was very smart, because Job understood life is unfair. And you're right, sir, life has been unfair to you.
Yeah,
So something I want to point out here is I do not like this kid's victimhood mentality. So he just made the statement of that God doesn't love him because he's had a difficult life. Well, for starters, he's at a university. He looks well fed. He's clothed in warm clothing where it looks like the temperature's a little cold. I'm sure he has a place to sleep. He's afforded some glasses for his vision problem. He may have had a troublesome childhood, but he looks like he's doing pretty well. Now, in contrast, there are people in different parts of the world who don't have a meal in front of them 3 times a day, even maybe 1 time a day, let alone water. Or there are people who are living in sheds where the floor is just muddy water, and they throw a bunch of leaves on the ground and lay in a bed of leaves that are soaked by muddy water as a bed. This kid has no idea how tough life can get. And the victimhood mentality that is infecting Western society, especially here in America, is I can't stand it. I actually can't stand it. And for him to, with his privileged life, with how good his life actually is, he's going to complain about these small little things happening in his life and use that as an excuse that God does not love him. That is one of the crazier things I've heard from the debates that Cliffe has with these students.
I wouldn't say no, it has not been unfair to me. It has made me the person who I am, and I appreciate that. But it hasn't been easy, I can tell you that. It's just been a little bit harder than other people.
But you see, what Job understood was life is unfair, but God is fair. Don't get the two mixed up. So when life throws screwballs in your face, don't clench your fist and wave it at God. That's misplaced anger. It's not God who's getting you.
No, it's man.
Good. It's man. Or it's the unfairness of the circumstances of life. Okay? But remember, God's character is good, Jesus revealed. And Jesus doesn't blow smoke. He's reliable.
Yes, but if we blame men for the bad things that happen to us, shouldn't we thank men for when good stuff happens to us?
You better thank. The same way my sons thank me for the gifts I've given them.
But not God.
Someone gives you gifts. Well, ultimately, yes. Ultimately, all the good things that I enjoy are gifts from God.
And so ultimately all the bad things that happen to us are because of God.
No, the bad things that happen, I'll tell you why. Genesis 3, chapter 3 records it very clearly. When we human beings told God, get lost, he partially honored our request, he took a step back from planet Earth, and chaos, unfairness erupted. That's why we say that life is unfair. Not because God created it unfair, but because we told God, get out of here. He respects our free will. He takes a step back, and chaos fills the gap. So you're born into an unfair, chaotic world. We all are.
It wouldn't be an unfair world, it'd just be a chaotic world.
Fine. Chaotic, unfair. Junk happens.
Yeah.
Painful junk happens.
Yes, and we can blame that on men. And then
a lot of it's a direct result of human irresponsibility, but also a lot of it's because life is unfair. A little baby dying of a gross genetic birth defect. Not necessarily because mom was a crack addict, but because of some genetic breakdown. Why? Because we're born into a chaotic, messed up, unfair world.
It's not unfair, it's just chaotic.
Okay.
It just happens.
Believe me, I'm not here to straighten out the etymology between chaotic and unfair.
Yeah,
okay?
I'm not going to try to do that either. That's too hard. My brain cannot process that. I'm a liberal arts major. But it's just that why should we thank God and not blame him?
Because he gave us good gifts. One of those good gifts was a free will. And when we human beings abused our free will, there were horrible consequences.
Okay.
Life broke down.
But why would he give us that?
What? Good question. Ultimately, I do not know. He chose to create us with free will. He didn't consult me, obviously, when he chose to do that. But to the best of my thinking, my understanding is.
So he brought up the topic of free will, and Cliffe says that he doesn't know why God gave us free will. I have my own personal opinion about that, and my personal opinion is that God gave us free will because he didn't want to program robots. He didn't want humans to be robots that just followed a certain way and praise him, glorify him, and love him just innately, automatically. I think God understands the true weight and power of true love. And the best way I can explain this is I love my wife dearly. And when we had our son, the amount of love that I have for my son and the way it makes me feel is I can't put it into words. And I know that's cliche to say. And if you have children, you understand. Most people who have children understand that the love that you have for your child, it's immeasurable. You can't put a value on it. It is so pure and so just filling that it's the greatest thing in life. It beats out money. It beats out material things. It beats out furthering your career. It beats out personal accomplishments. If your child can come up to you and say, "Hey, I love you," and they truly mean it, it's the best feeling in the world, bar none. Like bar none. So I believe God gave us free will to be able to experience this human journey, and then given the chance to love God the way that God loves us, like his children, and us to return that love to him, us to return that love to our neighbors, us to return that love to our friends, family, and even our enemies. So that's why my personal theory on free will.
The only way love can be real is if there's free will. If there's no free will, there ain't no such thing as love.
Okay, and what do you define love as?
Love is a genuine desire to work for your success, for your well-being, to benefit you.
Okay.
And if I don't have free will, I cannot choose to benefit you. I cannot choose to help you. I mean, I do what I do because I'm programmed if I'm a machine. But if I have a free will, I can choose to help you or I can choose to hurt you.
Okay, but like saying that love is to just make someone succeed. Like,
to help someone succeed.
To help someone succeed. So like you were saying, like that, we could take it like a step back to like Hitler era.
Yes.
And then like everyone who was doing all the stuff for Hitler, murdering all the people and stuff like that, every one of those people loved Hitler.
Well, yeah, they followed him, unfortunately, yes.
They followed him, but did they love him? I mean, they were trying to make him succeed, but is that love?
But I don't think everybody who was a Nazi loved Hitler. Yeah, but yeah, some people loved him, yes.
Some people did, and some people didn't. Some people were forced to, but they still helped him succeed, and by helping him succeed, they love him.
In that sense, yes.
But then love is a very abstract thing. Love is you can make someone succeed just for, like, power.
Good point.
Also, you can love for, like, pleasure and passion.
Yep.
But that's not really, it's a certain free will for like pleasure and passion, but for like success in life, everybody wants success in life. That's like a common goal. Mm-hmm. We all want to do that. And whether we succeed in life, that's not, do we love ourselves? We could, or there is no love at all. It's just like an empty pursuit for power, for money, for stuff like that. And if we want someone else, it could be empty as well. We just want them to succeed. There's no love involved at all. And so love can't really be free will. Love is just a pursuit.
Okay. That's where we disagree.
So this kid is claiming that love cannot be free will. That is so wrong that it almost makes me laugh. So if love wasn't free will, then we would all just be programmed robots and go out and find our significant other in the street one day, and that's how we would find our wife or husband. It is 100% a free will to love somebody. And to go back up a little bit further, Cliffe's explanation of love is love, but you can't put love into like one concrete sentence. I don't think love is such a like multifaceted expression and feeling that what Cliff said was part of it. You work for the benefit of somebody else so they succeed. Yes, that is part of love. But like with my wife, I also yearn for her intimacy. And with my son, I am a protector and I am a role model, and I want to teach him right and wrong. And I believe that all encompasses love. And this kid making the claim that free will or love isn't proof of free will is kind of crazy to me, because that would just mean we're all robots and like meaty robots, and we just go out, we find a partner, and that's our partner. And it got me thinking about the conversation I just had with my son. So we were outside one day, and I live in Florida, and there's lizards everywhere. Every time that you go up to a lizard, they get in this push-up position and they do this head bob thing. You know, they go like this, and it's them marking their territory, trying to be threatening. If humans did not have free will, then we would all pretty much act the same in every scenario. So if I'm walking down the street and somebody disrespects me or says something to me or my family, my wife or my kid, if we're all programmed and didn't have free will, I got two fists, and we should all act in the same way if we feel disrespected, and I should punch the guy. Or we have a free will and I can think about it, know that that guy's just being ridiculous, and say, you know what, man, I'm just going to leave this alone, walk away. We have that choice. Whereas if we didn't have free will, we would all pretty much act the same. Like lizards, when they feel threatened, they do the head bob thing. Humans, we have self-reflection, we have a conscience. We're not in a constant state of just eat, sleep, survive, reproduce. We reflect, we think about the future, we think about the past, we learn, we have all of these things, and that's all in our intricate designed brain that I believe a creator created for us to experience life differently than just animals. Let's finish this clip up and then I'll give my recap.
All right. I have another question.
I think if she's been dating you for 2 months, I think that if she's told you, I love you, and your father called you up tonight and told you that he's been paying her $1,000 a week to, quote, love you, I think you'd be a little bummed out.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily? Okay,
She
good.
could have bought
You're
me
being
something.
consistent. I think it's scary.
So he finishes the debate with the gentleman by saying that if a woman was dating him and told him that she loved him after a couple months, and then come to find out that the girl's father was just paying her to say that, he'd be bummed out because the love wasn't real. And this kid's go-to line is not necessarily. 100% if that was the scenario that this kid was in, he would be bummed out. He would be bummed out. But this video highlighted something that I wanted to make a video about, so it just fit perfectly, about free will and love, and how I think both of those intertwine with each other to prove the existence of God. And I wanted to make a video, which I probably will do later, so keep an eye out for it, is evidence for God that's not in the Bible, the Old or New Testament. And some of those things are, one of them was free will, another one was love, but I also like feelings, a conscience, and objective morals. All of these things, logic is another one. All of these things prove that a God exists, because they just can't come through chaos. There has to be an intelligent designer. And I'm probably still going to make that video, but this video, I was going through YouTube and this just hit perfectly, so I wanted to make another react video about it. But when it comes to love and it comes to free will, you absolutely have to have free will in order to love. I have the choice to love my son, my family, God, my friends, even my enemies. And if we were all the same and we were all just evolved from the same organisms, and we're just this higher level of matter and energy, then we would all act the same. So when my son was born and I first laid eyes on him, I instantly felt a love that I have never felt before in my life. And there are parents out there who have children and they abandon their kids. And that is their free will choice to do that. I could never do that. I love my son dearly. I love him more than anything in this world. And I will love him until the day I die. But there are some parents out there who have their children and then they're done. Like they either give them up for adoption, they just leave, horrible things happen, So if we were all the same and we're all evolved and we all have this same mentality that isn't a design with free will given to us, then we wouldn't be able to do that. We would all follow kind of like the same path. So love is 100% reliant on free will. You can't just walk out in the street and find your wife. You have to meet somebody and then develop feelings for them, love them, choose to love them. And you can't just choose to love anybody. And when you meet your significant other, there's something there. When you truly meet your soulmate, there's something there that is different. And when you have true love, that's something you're choosing to do with that person. So I kind of wanted to make a video just to touch up on the free will and love aspect of a sign of evidence and proof that God does exist. I still plan on making the video of other things that I believe that prove God exists without using the Bible and or anything to do with the Bible and Jesus and all that. So if you like this content and you're interested in seeing that video in the future, please leave a sub, leave a like, leave a comment. All of those things help this channel and helps me grow. But I also do discussions like this, like Cliff does on TikTok Live. And if you're interested in talking to me on a live, follow me at tiktok.com/@devoutnationttv. And I do live discussions there. I also post short form content there. And I would love to have some conversations with you. I've been doing it for a couple months now, and I've met so many people who are like-minded like me and who also have a different opinion than I do. And we've had civil discussions. We reached some common ground. It's always respectful. I'm never going to be there to tell you that you're wrong. That's not my place. And I just love interacting with all of you about this kind of discussion, whether it be worldview, morality, religion, God, anything like that. So if you're interested in talking to me on there, follow my TikTok. But that is all I have for you today. As always, bless you all, and I will see you on the next one.